Sushri Ami Ganatra will be our speaker on our discourse on Ayodhya's Rajkumar Sri Ramachandra today. A brief outline of her, a brief bio of Amiji. Ami Ganatra is an alumna of Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and Victoria Jubilee Technical Institute in Mumbai. She has over 14 years of experience in business strategy and consulting, working across 4 continents in a multitude of sectors. In her personal life, she's a devout yoga practitioner and a certified yoga instructor. She's also a student of Sanskrit and Indian knowledge systems. With that, it is my singular honor and pleasure to invite Ami Ganatra ji to start today's satsang with her discourse on Ayodhya's Rajkumar Sri Ramachandra, a brief character sketch of Sri Ram, the Rajkumar of Ayodhya, before his Vanvas. Amiji, whenever you're ready, please start.
Ready. Namaste everybody, and thank you so much, Hariji, for making me a part of the Sankalpa and the Satsanga. Really happy to be.
You're muted, Amiji. You're muted.
This is fine now, right?
You're still muted. I mean, I can see that you're unmuted on this, but somehow there is a mute. You're not audible. Oh boy.
Is this fine?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm
yes.
able to hear both of them.
Sharatji, can you let me know if you can hear her?
Yeah, we can.
Sharatji.
We can.
Oh, looks like the problem is, can you hear Sharatji?
Yes, yes.
Okay, then the problem is on my side. Okay, go ahead and start. Go ahead and start.
Okay, so namaste everybody, and thank you, Hariji. Thank you, everybody of this group for making me a part of the Satsanga and the Sankalpa. I must say at the beginning itself that I'm not a pravachanka. I am a student, and what I wish to do today is share a few instances of Sri Ram's life in Ayodhya before his Vanvas that really appeal to me. And I believe that through those instances, Valmiki ji is actually bringing out the personality of Sri Ram and somehow making him a lot more relatable to us. So before I start, we have to start with the Vandan for Valmiki ji. So, Kujantam Ram Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhya Kavita Shakha Vande Valmiki Kokiram. Jai Siya Ram. Valmiki Ramayana starts with a samvad, a conversation between Valmiki ji and Narad Muni. And Valmiki ji asks Narad Muni that Kahanu asmin sampratam loke gunvana kahascha virevan. In this contemporary world, in this loka, right now, who is such a person who has all the virtues, who's gunvan, who has all the virtues, and who's also viryavan, who has lot of parakram, who has lot of strength and courage and bravery. Who is such a person? And then he goes on to list another such qualities, asking that is there anybody who actually meets all these virtues? And Narad Muni says, actually there is. Sampratam loke there is. In the contemporary times in which Valmiki ji was alive, there is a king like that. And you know him, he is Sri Ram. And then Valmiki ji, then Narad Muni goes on to describe Sri Ram. So of course he talks about a lot of his virtues, which we will come to. But in that there is one part which I find very interesting. And Narad Muni lists out the physical attributes of Sri Ram. And before I say anything, maybe I share a slide where I have listed out some of those which I found very interesting. And I'm sure you will find very interesting as well. So I'm just going to share my screen. And yeah, so here it is. So Narad Muni says that Sri Ram, the person that I'm talking about, who's Gunvan and Viryavan, how does he look? How is his appearance? He says he's Vipulansa. He is broad shouldered. He is Mahabahu, strong armed. Mahahanu, he has a prominent jawline, high cheekbones. Mahoraska, broad chested. Gudha Jatru, he has fleshy collarbones. You know, he is not a thin, chocolatey person. He's not. He's a strong, muscled, chiseled person who's, you know, who comes across as strong, who's physically strong, mentally, of course, but who's also physically strong. What else? He's Ajanabahu. He has long arms. He's Peenavaksha, broad, well-developed chest. He has a muscular body. So these are some of the things which Narad Muni tells us about Sri Ram. So we talk about Greek gods, and when we talk about beauty, we talk about Greek gods, muscled, chiseled bodies. But here we have Sri Ram, who's equally strong and equally fit and physically strong, physically well built. And about his strength, we see it across Ramayana how strong he was. But there is one instance I want to talk about, and this is when Ram and Lakshman go with Vishwamitra ji to Mithila, because Raja Janak, who is the father of Sita, he's doing a yagna for his Shivadhanush, and he has this thing decided that whoever is able to pick up the Shivadhanush, he will marry Sita to that person. Till then, nobody was successful in doing that. Now, when the young princes come, Vishwamitra introduces them, and he says, he tells Janak that why don't you show these princes that Shivadhanush that you have? So Janak calls for it, and there's this baksa, there's a box in which the Shivadhanush is placed. 5,000, Valmiki Ramayana says, 5,000 young, strong, well-built men are carrying that box in which the Shivadhanush is placed. But Sri Ram, when he sees the Shivadhanush, just like it's a game, just like it's nothing, just like it's a trivial thing, he just picks that up. Even if there is an exaggeration, there are 5,000 men picking up that baksa versus Sri Ram alone. So he's that strong, and we get that glimpse into his strength right in the beginning itself of Valmiki Ramayana. So this is one instance where the qualities of Sri Rama are mentioned right in the beginning. Yeah. Then later on, when Dashrath now feels the need to coronate Sri Ram, or basically he feels that now he should step down and crowns one of his sons the king of Ayodhya. Once again, he calls his entire assembly. Now this is another interesting part, which the view of the social and administrative life that we get from Valmiki Ramayana. It is not as if Dashrath decides one day and says, okay, chalo, Ram ko, we'll make Ram the king. It's not like that. He calls an assembly consisting of the prominent citizens of Ayodhya, of Kosal Pradesh, his own ministers, and also all the kings who are paying taxes to him. So all these people who are the stakeholders in Ayodhya, in that kingdom, have come there. In front of them, Dashrath makes a proposal listing out why he believes Sri Ram is the right person to be coronated as the king of that Pradesh. And he puts the proposal in front of everybody, and he says, okay, what do you think? This is what my proposal is. And everybody instantly says that, yeah, we like Sri Ram, you make him the king. But Dashrath says, no, you don't just say yes because I want Ram to become the king. You tell me, why do you believe that he would make a better king than I am? And why are you supporting him to be crowned as the next king after me? And then everybody lists out certain things which they believe Sri Ram has. Yeah. So we are talking about a young prince till now who everybody believes is right to be the king of Ayodhya. And at that time, there are again some of the attributes that come out which talk about the achar and vyavhar of Sri Ram. I thought they were also very interesting. And over the course, these are some of the attributes which actually come into play of Sri Ram's Swabhav that we will see in the other events that I want to talk about. So again, I'll share my screen to so that it's easier to read. So some of the gunas and achar of Sri Ram, which people believe make him right to be the next king. Yeah, I'm just going to talk about a few of those. One of them, they say that Sri Ram is Deshakalavit. Now this is very interesting because when we talk about dharma, not religion but dharma, we always say dharma ki gati bahut sukshma hai. Nuances of dharma are very contextual, they are very subtle. And to understand the nuances of dharma, one needs to understand the context of the place and time where any event is playing out. To know that is not easy. To know that requires a lot of self-awareness as well as strong perception and intuition. And they believe, the people of Ayodhya believe, that Sri Ram had that. He was a Desh Kalvit. He understood the right context of the place and time. That is one. Second, they say he's a Purush Sarabhya. He understood people very well. He understood what was good about someone. He understood who could be fit to do different kinds of jobs. And that made him also deal with different people in the right way. But that would, make them more, make his interaction with them a lot more impactful. So that was another one. The third is Samvrutakar. Now this one is very interesting. Samvrutakar is the one who can basically, hide his emotions, so to say. I would put it like it is Samvrutakar is somebody who knows when and how to use or show or conceal his emotions. Yeah, who had control over his emotions, who wouldn't just go into an outburst, who wouldn't let emotions lead him, but somebody who could lead his emotions or who could at least control his behavior and not act only up per his emotions. Yeah, it does not mean he does not have emotions. And this part is going to be interesting in some of the events that we see going forward. Another one, very interesting, Amogha Krodha Harsha. Amogha literally means one that doesn't fail. So Amogha Krodha Harsha means a person whose Krodha and Harsha will also not fail. Now, when I say Krodha and Harsha will not fail, what does it mean? It very simply means he knew how to use Krodha and how to use Harsha. He wouldn't just impulsively get angry. No, he wasn't like that. Krodha is important. Krodha definitely matters. We have that thing that Kshama Shobhati us bhujang ko jiske paas garal ho. Only when one has power, only when one shows that he is an authority, one has Krodha, especially for somebody who's an administrator, Krodha matters. To do judgments, to put people who have gone astray in order and all of that. But where do you use Krodha? How do you use Krodha? That is important. And Sri Ram knew that. He never became angry for the heck of it. His anger and his happiness also had served a purpose. And at that time, he would show his anger. And the last one that I want to highlight is Swadosha Paradosha Vit. He understood the shortcomings of his own self as well as the shortcomings of others. He knew people very well, as we saw, Purush Sarabhya, and he also saw what their shortcomings were. Now, these people were everybody, not just others, not just Ravan, not just Sugriva or Vali. Including his father, he knew the shortcomings of everybody. And this also will come out in some of the events that we talk about going forward. So, we saw these qualities, and now I directly jump into that day where Dashrath ji has decided to coronate Sri Ram. So initially the discussion is that, let's coronate Sri Ram one of the days. But somehow Dashrath has this intuition that things are not right. He feels that the nakshatras, the stars are aligned in such a way which are not going to be in his favor. So what he does after making this announcement of making Ram the crown prince of Ayodhya, he calls him again immediately that same day. And he says, no, we don't wait. Tomorrow itself, we will crown you the king. Kal ke kal, just the very next day. We don't have to wait for anybody. So Sri Ram says, okay. And then Dashrath starts making preparation. He tells everybody to start making preparation. He asks, Vashishth ji asks Ram and Sita to do upvas that night. Yeah. Literally, this is the evening when this announcement is told, when Ram is told that from tomorrow you are going to be the king of Ayodhya. And we know the entire story that Kaikeyi comes to know and she asks for the two Vardhan. She basically says, Ramasya aranam aranya gamanam, Bharatasya abhishechanam. Ram should be sent to forest and Bharat should be made the king. Bharat's abhishek has to happen. And Ramasya aranya gamanam. Ram has to go to the forest for 14 years. Suddenly in the morning, Dashrath calls for Sri Ram. And Kaikeyi informs Sri Ram that, you know what? Forget the abhishek. Per your father's consent, you need to go for Vanvas and live like a tapasvi for 14 years. Can we imagine that mindset, that shock that would have happened? Just imagine it happening to one of us. In Hindi, we say, Muh tak niwala aake chin gaya. Literally, he was going to be the king. And in 12 hours, less than 12 hours, everything has changed. This person who grew up, who was groomed to be the prince, who lived in the luxury of the palace, has been asked to just leave and leave for 14 years. No reason given, nothing. And what does Sri Ram do? We know what Sri Ram does. He said, okay, fine. Very cool, very composed. He says, okay, I was ready to become the king because my father, Dashrath, wanted me to become the king. I was happy. Now, my father wants me to leave and go to Vanvas. That also I accept. So I accept that. I'm going to leave. No fight, nothing. He says, I just need to inform my mother, my wife, and all of that. And he goes to inform Kaushalya. Obviously, Kaushalya is dumbstruck. She's in shock. She pleads Sri Ram to not go. She pleads that, okay, if you want to go, you go, I'll come with you. But at that point, Sri Ram says, no, I am doing my duty and you should do your duty. It is your kartavya to be with the king, especially now that I'm also gone. He's going to be very unhappy about it. So you have to stay here. And somehow he convinces Kaushalya to stay. Now, Lakshman is not happy about this. Yeah, Lakshman is very, very angry with the way things have transpired. And he tells Sri Ram that, Arey, what are you doing? Your Kshatriya dharma tells you that you should fight for what is right. Sending you away to Vanvas is not right. So that is adharma. So you should actually fight it. I suggest let's go and imprison the king because the king is not doing the right thing now. The king has become adharma, is on the path of adharma. Let's imprison him and you become the king and you have the right to do that. And Sri Ram tells him that no, this situation doesn't call for a reaction like this. And he gives 3 reasons. These 3 reasons are very important. Because, we generally tend to think he says that, okay, my father has told me and hence I should leave. That is definitely a reason. He says that, I was ready to become the king because my father was giving me. Now, when he wants to send me to Vanvas, I cannot not listen to that agya. Agya is an agya. So his order is my command and I will do as he says. That is one. Then he explains further. He says there's something else to it. Our father has always been very particular about ensuring that anything he says is the truth. So now, if I choose to not go, I can say, no, I'm not going. Even though he will be happy that I'm staying here, mentally he is going to be very upset. Because the vachan he had given to Kaikeyi is actually going to be falsified. And him being disturbed mentally, if he's santapta, I will also not be happy. That is the second reason. Then he gives the third reason. Now, this third reason is very profound. I'm not going to go into the details of it. I will leave everybody to just think about it. Ramji talks about Daivat. He talks about destiny. He says, Lakshman, this is so weird. Till few hours ago, I was going to be given the kingdom. Now, suddenly, in a flash, everything has changed. This is not logically explainable or even understandable. So clearly there is something at play here which is beyond us, and he calls it Daivat. What he says is that till now, I have myself never discriminated between my mother or Kaikeyi. And till date, Kaikeyi herself has not discriminated between me and her son. So Kaikeyi thinking like this, that she wants to trouble me, is actually inspired in her brain by something which is beyond us. And the king accepting that proposal of Kaikeyi and not standing up to her and telling me to go, that buddhi is also being inspired by something which is not in my control. So clearly there is Daivat at play here. And what is the point of fighting this Daivat? Something which we don't understand. Any situation which sometimes is just completely inexplicable, ununderstandable completely, there is no point fighting that situation. Though we can come to know what is that longer play in the larger scheme of things only when we flow with the flow. So he says this very interesting part. He says, and let me read it out. Ram says, Kahascha Daivena Saumitre Yodhum Utsahate Puman Yasya nu Grahanam Kinchit Karmano Anyat na Drishyate. He's like, what is the point of fighting Daivat? Who can fight Daivat? Because to understand Daivat itself, what that destiny is going to unfold, one has to actually live that destiny. And he says, hence, I think this is the right thing to do. Anyways, Lakshman is still not happy, but Ramji has made his point. Now, till now, Ramji is so composed. He has not gone into any outburst. He has been very calm and very composed. But he's a human avatar. At that point, he's a human avatar. And for any human avatar, we have a manas. Manas hai, mind hai, to emotions hoga. The function of mind is to create emotions. So did Ramji not have emotions? He definitely did. And these emotions come out when he goes to meet Sita. Again, I will read what Valmiki ji says here. It's very interesting. He says, Atha Sita samutpatya vepamana cha tam patim apashya shoka santaptam chinta vyakulita indriyam tam drashtva sahi dharmatma na shashaka manogata tam shokam vraghavah sodhum tato vivrutam gatah. Valmiki ji says that as soon as he enters the chamber, as soon as Sri Ram enters the chambers and Sita sees him, and she starts trembling because his face is like that. His face is santapta. He is distressed. He is vyakul. He is worried. And she has never seen Ram like this before. So she sees his face and she's trembling that, oh my God, what happened? And Valmiki says, and seeing Sita, till now, this person who was so composed, who had not let his emotions show, he lets loose his emotions. He lets them show on his face. And he tells Sita that, you know what, something like this has happened. I have to go. I can't not go. That is not an option. And now, you have to live your life in the palace, taking care of everybody. Just ensure that you never ever praise me in front of Bharat, because now Bharat will be the king. And as a citizen of Ayodhya, you should do what is right for Bharat and things like that. So he tells her that. And so one is this point to note, that he has emotions, and his emotions come out when he sees Sita. Yeah, because they are like their alter ego. They are into each other. So he knows that there is no point hiding anything from Sita. She will anyways figure out. So his emotions are showing now. Yeah. And Sita says, oh, no, if you are going, I'm going. What do you mean I have to stay here? There is no chance. I'm going to go. And of course, there is a huge conversation between the two, where Sri Ram tries to explain to her that life in forest is going to be very, very difficult. It's not going to be easy at all, especially not for Sita, who doesn't know what a life in forest is. And Sita says something very interesting. She says, I am really shocked. I thought, so my father used to think that he has got to be married to a big warrior. But here you are like a lady in the room of a warrior. Because you can't even take care of me. You are telling me I will be scared with you around. How can that be? Yeah. So she says such harsh words. And she says, no, come what may, I will live through everything and anything as long as you are with me. And eventually she convinces Ram. Here again, Ram says something very interesting. He says, now that you have decided and you understand what forest life is going to be, you come with me. And it's not as if I cannot take care of you. However, for me, I cannot impose anything on you. I wanted to know what your real feeling or real thought about this is. Without knowing what is your mantavya, without knowing your view on this, I absolutely cannot take you with me. I do not want to impose it on you. I wouldn't want you to live in a forest if it is against your wishes. So now that is, you want to come, you come. So he actually gave Sita that individual autonomy is the wrong word, but that respect, that she decides whether she wants to come or not. Not just because she's his wife, she has to go with him. That was not the case. Yeah. This is the second instance. Now, we saw that he's so shocked, he has to leave immediately. So what does he do as a priority? He ensures that all the brahmacharis, all the, sevak, the employees that are working for him and his mother, especially for him, he ensures that all of them are paid their full vetan. Their full salary is paid, which will keep them going for 14 years. Yeah. He does not leave it to Bharat. He doesn't say that, oh, now I'm going, what do I have to do? Bharat will manage. No. He says, these people are working for me, and it is my responsibility to ensure that they don't go hungry any single day. So for the 14 years, he pays them whatever treasure wealth he has. He ensures all his employees are paid for that time before he leaves. Okay. Now I have just one last event to talk about. So, till now we've seen a personality emerge of Sri Ram. That he has emotions, but in spite of his emotions, he is doing what he thinks is the right thing to do. Now the last one, this happens when the Vanvas has actually started. And they have gone all the way. They have now entered a forest. This is after Sumatra has gone back to Ayodhya and after the meeting with Nishad Raj Guha and all that happens. The first night, they are completely alone, just 3 of them in the forest. And this time, Sri Ram actually is in tears. And he says, you know, this is so weird. I now understand what this lust is all about. You know, Artha and Dharma are completely waste in front of lust. Lust is all powerful. And see the situation our father fell into because of lust. He was lustful towards Kaikeyi, and see the situation he has fallen into because of that lust. Whatever has happened to our father is because of lust. Because what kind of even an avidnan, an illiterate person will not give up a son who is so obedient as I have been till now. So Dashrath is completely overcome with lust. He uses the word kamatma. Now one might think, Arey, how can Ramji say like this? But we also saw Ramji understood his own shortcomings and the shortcomings of everybody else. So he is giving his clear view about it. He's, of course, his emotions are showing. He's also giving a clear view about it. Then there is a little more lamentation, but eventually he still says that it is not as if I couldn't have fought to get the Rajya back. But in that situation, till now, it didn't make sense to show Parakram where it is not needed. This was not a situation which called for my rebellion, so to say. And hence, I did not go on that marga of adharma. Yeah. So this is a thought I want to leave all of us with, that we all have emotions. Ramji had emotions. It is not that we shouldn't have emotions. It is not that we should not feel bad or good about things happening to us. That will happen naturally. The point is, in spite of those emotions, what is our action that we do? Can we separate the two, the action that we must do and the emotions that we have, and live together with that emotion while doing what is that which is right for all of us? So these few instances really appeal to me, and I just want to leave all of you with this thought about Sri Ram's behavior and his achar from the first part of Ramayana. So that is that. Thank you, everybody. Jai Sri Ram.